I would like to say a little bit about his internal experience because it's really important for people to understand how different it was from normal consciousness. He said to us one time, he says, "You have no idea how different it is for me." He said, "I have something kings never had, this bliss, this joy." One time he said to us, "If the world at large could experience my consciousness for even just a few minutes, there would be a mad stampede of people practicing yoga and meditation." A mad stampede. He said, "It is so different." And there were a number of differences in his consciousness. I'll just quickly go over them, how his consciousness was different. There were six things. Five of them started right after the initial awakening experience. For one thing, he could perceive prana in his own body moving around, and he said it was super intelligent. It knew everything about every cell in his body. It would go into an organ that was not working properly, fix it, and then withdraw. He said he would wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be a storm of activity going on inside of himself. And he felt like a helpless victim. That was one thing. The second thing was, he said his conscious bubble had expanded tremendously. Now, I think I have, just for myself, I perceive my conscious bubble as being in and around my head. And I think that's the way it is for most people. But he said after the initial awakening, this had expanded to much greater size. He called it his mental mirror because it reflected the external world. And it tended to shrink and grow, but it basically stayed much, much bigger than the normal. The third thing that was different was his internal visualization process. And he said before the awakening, if he brought to memory an object of some kind, it would be against a somber background. It would be similar intensity of color to the original. He said after this initial experience, he said his whole mind was alight, like the background of his mind was full of light. And when he recalled from memory an image, it would be carved in living fire. Those were his exact words. That was the third thing. The fourth thing was his dreams. And from the end of the initial awakening crisis, he said when he went to sleep at night, his dreams were like an Elysium, like a fairyland full of light, love, bliss, happiness, joy. He said it's indescribable. And he said the glow from that would last well into the next day, this being in this Elysium. And it was like this till the day he died. The fifth thing that happened to him was that after the initial awakening, everything he looked at seemed to be covered in a layer of chalk dust. And he thought it was rather unusual, but he couldn't explain it. And he eventually concluded that it wasn't a problem with his eyes. It was something that was happening in his brain. So this went on for about 2 years. And then 1939, I think he was walking to work from the description he gave in his autobiography. He was walking to work one day and he looked up at the office buildings where he worked and he stopped dead in his tracks in utter astonishment because that layer of chalk dust had morphed into a ravishingly beautiful silvery luster. It surrounded everything. It made it alluring, entrancing, beautiful, literally indescribable. And that was a feature of his consciousness till the day he died.